Hey YouTube land!
Hey.
I'm Polly.
I'm Gina.
And we're about to start our It's a Matter of Life and Death podcast.
Yeah. So hang in today. It's going to be a little heavier maybe than what you're used to with us.
But hopefully very helpful.
Yes, and hopefully hopeful.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay, here we go.
Can they say that?
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 They can, and they will.
Hey you guys, welcome to Can They Say That? I am Polly Hamp.
And I am Gina Berkmeyer.
And today we are going to address a topic that can be kind of heavy. The title of our podcast today is It's a Matter of Life and Death. And we will be discussing statistics, stories, just kind of the overwhelming aspects of suicide.
Right. And one of the reasons that we chose the timing of this episode is because it seems to be very open and prevalent now. We're seeing a lot in social media, particularly with the last two with Andrew Bourdain and Kate Spade.
Yeah.
And so I think it's brought something to the forefront of people's minds. And I think it's important to recognize that this is also a reminder that mental illness is not a respecter of status or age or race or even socioeconomic status.
Right.
It just is.
Yeah. It's interesting. We were teaching a couple of months ago in St. Louis, and we actually brought this topic up in a sermon, and then it's just it just keeps rearing its ugly head, and I'm glad it's rearing its ugly head because there are so many people who are suffering in silence that won't speak out, and so we have to speak about this.
That's right.
We have to talk about this, and we can't stop it. Yet, hopefully, we can speak into the heart of somebody who might be struggling with it. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal story with suicide.
Great.
And,
Thank you.
So if you've listened to any of our podcasts, I'll just give you a little backstory. I started being sexually abused at a very young age, and through that had the expressions of depression and really searching for what love was. And because of that abuse, just kind of molded my thoughts of the world and how I saw everything. And when you have different types of abuse and just oppression, the world is very dark. And at points, I just thought it would be so much easier if I was not alive. And so I was very expressive. Through my depression, I still was very promiscuous, very just searching to find life.
A lifeline. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it was very much the opposite of what I was feeling inside, but it was very destructive. Mm-hmm. And so in college, after I stripped for 2 years, I was and the world was just crushing down on me. I didn't want to live anymore. So drove around good old Nacogdoches, Texas, where I was going to school at Stephen F. Austin, and had a gun. And I sat in the parking lot. After I drove around the loop for a little while, I sat in the parking lot of my ex-boyfriend's apartment with a gun in my hand. And I was atheist at the time, and always thought, if there was a God, how could a God so great let such horrible things happen to a little girl? And I was just done. And at that time, I don't know what stopped me from killing myself, but I ended up taking the gun to my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend and handed it to them. They called my counselor, and they proceeded to take me to a home that was helping people with high levels of depression and addictions and stuff like that. And I didn't take my life, nor did I ever dance again, but I still have carried the weight of suicidal ideation all the way till even now. And I'm not sure if once you let something like that in, how hard it is to get rid of it. I have an amazing life. I've walked through hell and back through, divorce and ministry and just addictions and just hard things where sometimes the thoughts of not living are bigger than the thoughts of living. And even in where I am now, I still have wrestles, and I still hear that little voice every once in a while going, hey, if it's hard, you can just leave. You don't have to live. And it's in that battle of where I know it's like, you know what? That voice is not mine. I am worthy to live. And I'm wrestling and I'm struggling. But you guys, I just want to say that I love God. I am a Christian. And I still have had these thoughts. So, there are some taboo topics that we don't talk about, because if you're a good Christian, you should not have these thoughts. If you're a good Christian, you should not have oppression. And so right now,
Or depression.
Let's cut that. If you guys are secretly struggling and suffering in fear that if you tell anybody that you struggle with these thoughts, their judgments are going to be huge. Maybe it's time to find a safe place to be able to talk about those things. So Gina's going to share.
I am going to share some statistics.
yeah.
Before that, a couple things I'd like to comment on what you said. One being, you're not sure if that ever goes away for somebody once it's come in. I don't know about let in. I think it overwhelms. It's not.
Comes in,
we
yeah.
don't give it permission. It just sort of mental illness just kind of comes in and does that. I think it's different for everybody. I think some people do continue struggle, like you say. Sometimes it's this voice, and you're like, "Shut up! I know the truth. Go away. Bye."
Yeah.
For other people, that voice goes away. For some people, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that one person is better than the other,
Right.
or one person has it figured out. We have to recognize that there is a biology to things like depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
There is a chemical imbalance that can happen in the brain. Sometimes it isn't about anything that you've done. Even you could be doing all the right things and still struggle. It could be that maybe medication is something that you need.
Yes.
That's not anti-faith.
That's right.
That's not anti-Jesus.
That's right.
Okay. That's actually using something that has been put on the earth, yes, by men. However, it's okay to use that. I mean,
Well, God created
the people who
the
created
people
it.
who created medication.
Right, that's right.
God gave us all the things out in nature to
That's
be
right.
able to heal bodies and our minds.
Yes, and I think one of the things I get so passionately frustrated about in my practice is that we would never in a million years tell someone with diabetes or cancer, just stop taking your medication, pray a little harder, believe a little bigger, change your actions and your thoughts, and you'll be all better.
Yeah.
We would never say that. And yet, whether we say it implicitly or explicitly, we say that to people who struggle with mental illness all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah. Can I say something real
Yes.
quick back to the process that I have found when I actually think about if I have some ideation stuff or that little voice? What I've done is there are times where I just tell it to shut up. But then I'm going, okay, what is going inside of
Yes.
me? What am I believing about myself or something
Good.
outside of me that I need to actually address?
That's good.
And so, if I shove it too far, it actually becomes a lot bigger than the little voice.
That's right.
And so a lot of times it's either seeing a professional going, okay, this has gotten too big. I really need some help with this. Or going, one of the things I talk to my clients about all the time and with internal dialogue and what's going on is to be very aware of our internal dialogues. And then going, not giving the enemy the power to it, but going, God, what do you want to say about it?
Yes.
And what it does is it ends up giving it to the source of life. And he gets to talk to you about it and deal with it. Yet sometimes it is still too big and overwhelming. You know, it's knowing that balance of when, and always ask the Lord, but then it's like, okay, I need to see somebody professionally to help me walk through something bigger that I can't see past at this point.
So what I'm hearing you say is we have to be able to embrace the both and.
Yes.
It's a holistic approach to this thing because it's holistically impacting us.
Yeah.
It impacts us mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. So it makes sense the most effective route to deal with it is something that is equally holistic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I do want to come back to statistics.
Okay.
Would you help me remember, though, I do want to come back to something you said about what you did that night when you took the gun to them and about them. So will you help me remember that?
Yes.
So I'm going to run through some statistics here. So first of all, let's talk about the increase in suicide from 1999 to 2016. When we look at a map of North America, there are 12 states that have had an increase over that time period between 38 and 58%. Suicide has gone up. In the course of this day in which we will record this and you will listen, approximately 123 people will suicide today. Okay. And just some background on the language of it all.
Yeah, I was about to.
So we used to say committed suicide. Even I myself sometimes slip up and say that. That language came from back in the day when it was actually against the law to commit suicide. It was considered a crime. So committed came from that language, so we try to pull away a little bit from that. Okay, so 12 states in North America, we have about a 38 to 58% increase in people who die by suicide. 12 additional states, a 31 to 37% increase. Across the board, between the lowest increase was 10%. I'm sorry, 7%. With the exception of one state that decreased, and the decrease was only by 1%. We're talking about the entire North America. We're talking about in all of North America. So that was pretty staggering to me. In 2016, 45,000 people ages 10 and above died by suicide.
So that's like ages 10.
10.
Yeah, some of the stories in our area, you know, a 10-year-old hanging himself.
Right.
You know,
And then second leading cause of death in individuals ages 15 to 24 across the board. We're talking everything combined, right? So those are some pretty staggering numbers.
Yeah.
The one that hits me the most is the one in and of today, that 123 people today.
Yeah, today.
So,
And that's in the United States.
it is,
Yeah.
yes. I think the statistic globally is every 40 seconds.
Oh my
someone.
gosh.
So I think it's important to talk about one of the things we hope that we can do here is to give a space where we encourage discussion on both sides, whether you're someone who loves someone that struggles
Yeah.
or whether you are someone who struggles, just on both sides of the equation, to use your voice. Can you say that? You can say that. We want you to please say that.
Please say it.
This is part of the problem in our country.
Yeah.
There is such a stigma with mental health, and there is an even just globally, well, that sounds weird, globally in our country, there is a stigma of mental health. Let's pull that even smaller and talk about in the church.
Yes.
There is such a hard, people have such a hard time in the church talking about mental illness, and particularly this topic.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's people out there who are saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I'd like us to talk about the what do we do?
Yes. I think what do we do is just start talking about it. A lot of the reasons that stigmas are taboos are created is because nobody will talk about it. And when it's something that is so big and so obvious to the health of the world and to just the hearts of people, when we become silent, it's the very thing that the enemy wants to do is silence and isolate. And when we start doing that, the voices become smaller. But if we start saying it, and if we start just coming from a place of just hope,
Yes.
and speaking into the lives of people and saying, hey, you are safe to talk about it. You are, please talk about it, because we don't want you to suffer in silence.
Right.
And so if we start talking like we are now, and we keep having the conversation, I'm not going to stop having this conversation, even in the places that hurt. And I just want that silent suffering is suffocating, and
You know that.
I know it
Because you've lived it.
Yes,
Hence the emotion.
exactly. And so, please talk about it. Please find that safe place to share your story.
Right. I think when you're talking about the silence, there's a shame that drives the silence, and shame drives us from relationships that are safe. Shame drives us away from the possibility of getting help and finding hope. Shame pulls us away from all of those things and tells us a lot of lies about ourselves. And so if particularly around this topic we can slay some shame, that would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think together all of us can help to do that. I really think so.
I think we've used this quote before, but out of Brene Brown's book, I forget which one it is, but it's not Braving the Wilderness, it's the first one. She says, vulnerability is the antidote to shame.
Oh, I think it was her third, Daring Greatly. I think it was her third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So vulnerability is the antidote to shame. And it's so hard. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to be vulnerable when you look at your life and think you have no value. And you look at your life and go, if I'm just gone, maybe the people around me won't have to suffer because of my choices anymore. And it's almost like the world would just be better without me.
All lies.
Oh, complete lies. And so when you start really going, but what if I'm vulnerable to truth? And then that slays the shame. That starts even just picking at it.
Right.
I keep thinking of like an ice. It's like it just picks at it to get rid of it and break it down.
That's good. So I have a couple lists that I'd like to share.
Okay.
These aren't based on years of research or anything like that. These are based on, some of my research, and it's also based on things that have happened with clients, things that have happened with colleagues and clients. So one of the lists is all about what to say.
That's good.
And the other list is all about what not to say.
Thank you.
And let me also pre-qualify that neither of these lists are exhaustive. Okay, like I'm sure there's more. And if you're a mental health professional and you engage us on Facebook and you want to share some resources, we would love that.
Please.
If you have a story of hope where someone said something to you or made themselves available to you and it helped in your walk to healing, we really would love to hear that.
Yes.
You could even share it privately, and if you give us permission, we'll share it anonymously.
Yeah.
We would love that because we drive from one another's hopes. So, okay, so the first list. I'm just so glad you told me.
It's good.
I'm just so glad you told me. And this list, this is anybody can say these things. You don't have to have some kind of degree.
Right.
You don't have to have some sort of formal training. You just have to have a heart.
Yes.
That's all. You just need a heart and eyes to see and ears to listen. If you have that, you can say these things. So I'm just so glad you told me. I'm sad you're hurting.
Yeah.
Acknowledge this comes from a place of pain. And acknowledge that their pain makes you sad. What's going on that makes you want to die? Don't be afraid of that question. They already want to die. Asking that question is not going to make them feel that way.
Right.
It's going to say, oh, wait, I can actually talk about what's in my head. It's called linguistic labeling. When we label and we speak that out into the light, the load can get a lot lighter just by putting it out there, because now there's someone else to help hold the load.
That's that vulnerability
Yeah.
thing that chips at that shame.
Yes. You can ask them, when do you think you'll act on these thoughts? One of the reasons this is important is because you want to know if they have a plan.
Yes.
If they have a plan, that's when in doubt, 911. We
Yes.
want to get them help, or if they'll let you take them to help.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Also, do they have access to their intended method? That's important to know. Are there prescription drugs in the house?
Yeah.
Are there weapons in the house? If that's part of their plan, do they have that plan actively engaged in their mind? What can I do to help? What can I let? They probably know themselves a little better than you do. So, what do you need in this moment? What can I do to help?
I'm gonna say, and when you ask these questions, just be calm. Just
We're going to talk about that on
Okay.
the what not to say list.
Good. Okay.
Because she's right.
Yeah,
she's right.
The exact way Gina is saying them right now. It's just be calm, and it's like invite them into conversation with you.
Come from a place of love and openness, because if they're answering these questions, they're alive.
Yes. Yes.
And there's something in them that wants to be.
Exactly.
Okay, so what can I do to help? I care about you, and I would be so sad if you died by suicide. I'd be so sad if you died at all. I'd especially be sad if you died by suicide. I care about you. I hope you'll keep talking to me about these thoughts that you're having.
Yeah.
The door is open. The coffee is on. The couch is available. Do you just want to not be alone? Do you need to be with someone for a while? Come be with me, or I can come be with you.
And then taking that another step forward is set a time. Hey, let's have coffee again tomorrow at 3:00.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, okay,
That's actually huge.
and so the person that is wrestling is actually making a future
Positive plan.
And so just say, hey, how about 3:00 tomorrow? We're going to have coffee. And if you're not able to do it, ask the questions of who is somebody that you could reach out to have coffee with or whatever at 3:00 tomorrow.
Right.
And just help them and then sit with them while they make that plan.
Yes. If you know the person well enough that you can identify some people in their lives who are very safe people, then I think it is a positive thing to review who those people are and how much they mean to those people.
Yeah, it's good.
I think that is important. Okay, so again, list is not exhaustive. There are other questions to ask.
And we might even, let's go ahead and post this list
We
too.
can do that.
Yeah,
We can
we'll
do
go
that.
ahead and post it as well.
And we have a couple links also that we will post that I think will be helpful. Let's talk about the don't say, what not to say. So along with the what not to say, it's how not to project, right? So don't freak out. If you're freaking out inside, learn a poker face.
Yes.
As best as you can. Don't freak out. Let this person know that because if they see that, they're going to shut down.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to keep that line of communication open. So what we don't say is we don't say suicide is selfish.
Right.
More than likely, the person believes that they are actually letting everyone around them off the hook if they do this. So they're not thinking selfishly at all. They're thinking that this is actually beneficial for a lot of people. A lie, but sounds an awful lot like truth in their head.
Yeah.
Other people have it worse than you. You don't have it that bad. Other people have it worse than you. Perception is reality.
Yes.
And we all have a different threshold of tolerance in terms of our depression and our anxiety, and what we can handle and what we can't handle. And there's a good chance you don't know their backstory.
That's right.
You don't know what demons have been knocking on their door for the last 2, 3, 4 decades. You don't know. So be careful with that. Don't say, I get sad too sometimes.
Yeah.
This is not sadness. Sadness is a healthy emotion that we have appropriately in appropriate places. This is not just about just a general sadness. This
Right.
is so much deeper than that. Suicide is the easy way out, kind of goes with selfish.
Yeah.
No, that's no. Oh, don't say that. That's your own junk
Yes.
bubbling to the surface. And that's just going to cause that person to feel like they have to rush in and care for you. So be very careful with that. And they won't come back, by the way.
Right.
If you tell them not to say what they're saying, you've just affirmed their shame. You've also fed their shame.
Yeah.
And they're not going to come back and talk to you.
And if you accidentally say one of these things,
You can fix
you
it.
can fix it.
Yeah.
You know, you can go,
Wait,
that
sorry.
was a really crappy thing
That
I
was
just
stupid.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, can I have a do-over?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, and own it. That was my
Yes.
fear. I just said that out of fear. I don't want to lose you. I love you. I don't want to lose you.
And thank you for trusting
Thank
me.
you for trusting me.
Yeah.
Let me fix this. Things like tomorrow is a new day. You have no reason to feel this way. Think of how your family would feel. Again, this is a thing where they're already thinking about that and they're thinking this is better for everybody. You can just push through. It's all in your head. Life is good. All those kinds of ridiculousness things.
I'm so glad you made
Right.
this list.
Yeah, well, and then my personal favorite. Maybe you're not praying hard enough.
Don't say that.
Ever. Like, go wash your own mouth out with soap if
Oh
you
my
say
goodness.
something like that.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that. Don't ever say that.
No.
You don't know what the dark nights of crying out to the Lord might look like in their house and in their heart. So that is a big no-no. We're not beating y'all up. We're just really trying to drive home the importance of not saying these things because they're so important.
Right.
They're so important. And yes.
So, and one thing I wanted to add to this before we give some hotlines, and I don't know if we have enough time for that other question that you were going to ask, but if somebody that you're talking with and helping, and you feel like they're going to take their life, talk to them about getting help. Call 911,
absolutely.
things like that. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I also want to say to those who have lost loved ones and friends to suicide, you're not responsible for saving them. You're not responsible for their lives. I can't even imagine how what that must feel like to lose somebody to suicide. And those who have walked and found the people that they love dead.
Yes.
And so that wrestle inside, please know that we want to talk to your heart as well.
Yes.
And it's you couldn't have saved them.
No.
And sometimes the demons are just so much bigger than anything that we can ever confront and help with. So please know you're not responsible, and find a way to not carry the weight of that person's loss of life to suicide.
Get help for yourself.
Please.
Go talk to someone.
Yeah.
Go talk to someone, because you can do everything right, everything wrong, nothing at all the things. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
It could still happen. It
Yeah.
could still happen, and it's not for you to carry that
Right.
for the rest of your life. Okay, I do need to ask you this
Okay.
question. What did your ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend do right that night?
They brought me in. It was interesting because his girlfriend hated me, she hated me, but they still brought me in, loved me, took the gun, I handed it over, and they took it and they called my counselor. They sat with me and then took me to the home that my counselor had recommended.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was a great question.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, so let's give some numbers.
Yes.
So first of all, to those of you who want to be a helper to someone, or even just learn more, educate yourself more, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. All one word, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Great resource, all kinds of information and helps there to become a helper, to learn
great.
more. Suicide hotline, life crisis hotline, 800-273 8255. And then there's a text a counselor number, which I think is wonderful.
Yes.
You can just text this out to get help. And that is text to 741 741. So let's do those again. So the hotline, 800-273-8255, and text a counselor, text for help, 741 741.
Awesome. And we will have these within the podcast notes with some other questions of the what to say, what not to say, but also do your research. Have these phone numbers in your phone because you never know who
Yes.
you're going to come across.
Yes.
And so just be ready and be prepared.
So next steps, quickly?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's someone you think you need to check on today, if someone's put God on your heart, if somebody's come to your mind, check on them. Also, folks, check on your strong people. The
Yes.
ones who are carrying a really heavy load and seem like they're okay, but you haven't heard from them in a while.
Yeah, that's
Just
good.
check on your strong people. Check on kids too, by the way. There's some very alarming numbers of suicide in kids.
Oh, yeah.
If there's people in your life who struggle, go to the website that we gave. Look at some of the resources that we're going to offer. And are you struggling?
Yeah.
If you're struggling, you are loved, you are valuable, you are cared for. And we would ask you to reach out to us. If to no one else, reach out to
Yes.
us. You could do that privately. But please try to reach out to someone who's close, who can look you in the eye
Yes.
physically and talk to you and tell you that you are loved. Share the struggle. Use these resources that we've given today.
And I just want you to know you are not alone.
That's right.
You are not.
No.
And we love you. You are loved. You are seen. You are valuable.
Yes.
And you are worth a conversation.
Yes. Yes.
So we love you guys. Thank you for your time. And we pray for each of your hearts.
Yes.
And this topic that is difficult to talk about, yet we get to speak life into others. And so thank you guys for chiming in and listening in today.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.